Hey guys, such a warmonger here, and you're watching 3 versus 3 Siege of Jerusalem. This is a player versus player, attackers versus defenders map. I'm going to start in capture age because I want to show the layout of the map. The attackers start on the northwest over here, and their objective for the entire game is for at least one player to get 30 units inside this dome of rock rectangle. Now it needs to be uncontested, which means their 30 units must be there and the defenders must not have any units in this rectangle. So uncontested. And the objective of the defenders who start in the city is to last for 45 minutes. That's the whole game. Now I would like to show the in-game what it looks like in-game. So let me just do that real quick. Now you notice that the game starts in the nighttime mood. It's because the whole game will transition into the morning, and then it goes into, midday, and then the afternoon, and then nighttime. So initial mood is nighttime, and then it transitions to the winter mood, which shows it's the morning for about 3 minutes, and then it goes into the normal mood, which is like late morning and midday. Then it transitions to the desert mood, which is the represents the afternoon. Then it transitions to the autumn mood, which will show for the last 3 minutes sunset, and then it finally goes back in the last minute to the nighttime mood again. So the whole battle for 45 minutes represents a whole day. Now we can go back to capture age, and I will explain that all of the players start with 40,000 wood, food, and gold, and the attackers get 1,500 wood, food, and gold every 3 minutes, while the defenders don't get anything. All they get is, in the middle of the game, a caravan appears right here. I'll explain that later when it happens. Both attackers and defenders can fight over these 5 relics, and that will also help with resources. So if I do a fog effect, you can see that the defenders can see the whole city, but there are pieces that they can't see. So you might be wondering why they can't see this. If there's buildings around, it's because all of these buildings are controlled by Gaia. The only buildings that provide vision are the allied towers over here, allied castles, and of course everything owned by the defenders themselves, like these posterns and their production buildings. The attackers start with 220 population, and the defenders start with 200 population. Now normally there are tent clumps. There would be a tent clump here for the defenders that holds 20 pop, and the tent clump here that holds 20 pop. But since there's a Slav player, they've been removed because military buildings provide population. So there are no tent clumps. There would have been tents here too. 1 per town center. So the battle is starting. Let's watch it a little bit. You can already see that they attempted to grab a relic, but the priest went only as far as here. So these relics are very important to the defenders especially. The attackers are trying to take this tower out because it's the closest. This is called Tancred's Tower. is the closest strong point to the attacker camp. So usually this is where the attackers attack, and up here. So you notice that the green player took out these 3 trebuchets, the starting trebuchets, so that their trebuchets can start attacking the defenses unimpeded. I'll talk about this a little bit. Attackers can make villagers, but they can't build anything except for outposts. And you need to buy the stone for the outposts. And palisade walls and fortified palisade walls. Meanwhile, the defenders can only make barricades, and I'll explain that later if I see them. Actually, there's a barricade right here. Barricades are the same size, 2x2 tiles, and about the same HP as a house. They're good for protecting flanks and creating kill zones. So Tancred's tower is about to go down. That tower does not provide any population because it's controlled by the allied city. It's just there to help the defenses. Now the reason why it's taking so long to destroy anything defense-wise is because all of these outer walls, all of these outer towers, and all of the castles are 20,000 HP and a lot of building armor. That's why it's taking forever for these rams to push through. There's only 5 gates into the city, and this is one of them that just went down. That's St. Stephen's Gate. Now, looks like the green player has sent some sneak attack rams in the southern gate. This is the Zion Gate. And one of the eastern gates, and this is the Gate of Jehoshaphat. At the same time, the yellow player has siege towers that are trying to push through champions. Now, these flanking attacks are important because the defenders obviously have an advantage, so you have to try to do something, you know, to try to spread the defenses thin. The champions are headed towards one of these siege workshops. The reason for that is that trebuchets, the defenders can make trebuchets, scorpions, and onagers from, or mangonel, the mangonel line, from these siege workshops. Trebuchets aren't built in the castle anymore, they're built in the siege workshop. So you can see that siege workshops are super important to both sides, but especially the defenders. I don't think this is going to do a lot of damage. This is not going to do a lot of damage either, but at least it opened up a flank in the south. So it's important to open up multiple flanks to spread the defenders thin. For example, these Teutonic Knights could have been doing something else, but now they're stuck protecting that flank. And now there's a hole on the northwest point. And it opens up this area. There's a hole in the north point, the north center, St. Stephen's Gate. And the trebuchets are being destroyed. So once again, normally these run-ins would be to attack tents over here. and tents over here. But because there's a Slav player, it's much harder to raid the defenders. You actually have to destroy the production buildings. Now let's show the fog properly. Yeah, just killing trebuchets for maybe some potential flanks later on with trebuchets. Looks like an attempted run in here. Getting shut down. Another attempted run in here. Not sure where to go. Now, defender trebuchets have +1 range, except for Tatars and Britons. So, counter trebuchets are usually a good thing to do, making counter trebuchets. Some raids deep into enemy territory. Not going to be super effective because we're up against Slavs. Now, I was the green player, and I'll explain when there's a lull in the game. I'll explain the different players and races that are being used. The northern battering ram attack almost got through this gate. That would have been cool. So, something interesting about this map is since everything is owned by Gaia except for towers and defending player buildings, each tower that's destroyed will lose vision over that section of the map. So now you can see that because these towers have been lost, now the defending players don't know what's over here. So it makes it more claustrophobic. The more towers that the defenders lose, the more claustrophobic it becomes. It's like they lose the territory. Got some big battles over here. Destroying these Fatoras don't really, it creates space. It doesn't really do anything because they're controlled by Gaia. Looks like there were some battering rams that were sneaked through to try to damage these walls. Although the outer walls are 20,000 HP, these Temple Mount walls aren't as strong. And these Temple Mount gates are not as strong. Orange is trying to raid and hurt the defender population by taking out town centers. Meanwhile, Gray has sent a sally of Teutonic Knights, which failed. More raids. It's very hard to raid the defending team with the Slav player. Very hard. Yeah, there's just a lot of action going on right now, so I'll talk a bit through the action. So player 4, the gray, is Teutons. And these Teutonic Knights are exactly the same stats as the original Teutonic Paladins. It's just a reskin. I'm completely aware that the Teutonic Knights did not look like that during the Jerusalem Palestinian Crusades, but they just look so cool. I had to put them in. This is a lot of action going on right now. And the player 5 red player is playing as the Magyars, or Hungarians. They're called in the game Hungarians. They are unchanged because they're so strong. And player 6 blue is the Slav player, also unchanged. Also very strong. Actually, something you will notice is the Magyars do not make paladins anymore. They make these elite lancers. It's the same deal. They have exactly the same stats as the original paladin, except it's a reskin, just to match the area more. Player 1 Mongols, completely unchanged, except for also the Elite Lancer. Same deal. Their Knight line is different looking, but the same stats as the original game. So it's just a reskin. Oh, lost a lot of onagers there. And player 2, these are the Abbasids, but you know them as Malians usually. Completely unchanged. I believe their Knight line also looks like Elite Step Lancers. Just a skin change again. And then last, but not least, player 3. These are the Turks. These are completely changed. And let's just switch to them now. Their castle unit, unique unit, is a Sipahi Horse Archer. They are the fastest units in the game at 1.65 speed. And they have a slight damage buff against buildings. Their heavy cavalry archers have been replaced by these Turkic horse archers, which fire 2 projectiles and also have bonus damage versus buildings. Their knight line has been replaced by Turkic cavalry, which is about the same stats, and they also have a bonus damage versus buildings. And lastly, they can make Tarkans too. So that's a lot of changes for the Turks. The reason for these changes is Meso and out-of-place Asian units, gunpowder units, and elephants have been removed from the game. So the Turks lost one of their defining characteristics, which is gunpowder. So we had to change them. Well, I had to change them. So they're more like the Seljuk Turks historically where they're a cavalry civilization with lots of horse archer potential and raiding, so that's why they have anti-building bonus. Here comes another Mongol raid. Not sure this is going to be too successful. There are these Mercenary Scouts. In the beginning of the game, each player, attackers and defenders, start with a Mercenary Scout. They also have 1.65 speed, so they're also the fastest unit in the game. And they have very long vision range. So they're very useful for scouting, basically. And the defenders get them, and they start here. The player 5 red player is not using his, but this is actually a good spot to watch for flanking attacks. In the beginning of the game, there were merchant spies, and you might have seen that earlier in the video. The attackers start with merchant spies over here. Each attacker has one, and they have very high pierce armor, and they're good for watching for weak points. So I like to put mine here to see if this area is defended, or even leave them just like around here to see if this area is defended. I sometimes move my merchant spy all the way up here to see if the tents are defended, but in this game there are no tents, so I didn't need to do that. Now you can see that the orange player, player 1, had a little battle here against some hussars. We're placing our units here because we know that the caravan of the defense is coming up that I talked about earlier. And I'll talk about that when it happens. You can see that the defenders lost a lot of towers now, so it's really started to get cramped in the city. You do not know what's going on anymore. Player 4 has sent some Teutonic Knights to try to protect these caravan that's coming. Wise choice, I believe. Now the red player, the Hussar, is getting a lot of trebuchet kills. Like I said, trebuchets are so precious because you only have one siege workshop and they're expensive. So gathering a large number of them is very difficult. On top of that, I also slowed down trebuchet production. And here is the caravan. So what the defenders have to do is get their trade carts to the Dome of Rock. Each caravan that makes it to the Dome of the Rock, which once again is over here, each caravan that makes it gives the defenders 2,000 wood, food, and gold, and that's every single defender. So that's a total of 6,000 wood, food, and gold if they make it. Unfortunately for the defenders, only one caravan has survived, so they're only going to get 2,000 wood, food, and gold for the whole team. But they weren't able to destroy this whole force of yellow, player 2. The Abbasids. Another bonus of this caravan is that caravan units themselves, they are a mix of very powerful units. So Imperial Camels, Cataphracts, Steppe Lancers, Camel Archers, Heavy Cavalry Archers. So a very good mix and quite strong in their own right. So if you put all 3 player caravans together, that's a very good cavalry flank that is automatically at a good place, especially if there was an attack towards the castles over here. Speaking of the castles, each castle holds 20 population, so this area holds 40 population. And they're very very important because usually you care about your unique unit production. So taking this out as the attackers is sometimes a good strategy, but it's very heavily fortified because all of these towers and this castle are 20,000 HP. And of course, the walls and the gates are also 20,000 HP. And there is a large force up here starting to pressure the main objective. Of course, this is the main objective. And there is a charge of the light brigade, except it's not very light, it's a heavy brigade. But even though Teutonic Knights look very cool, this is not going to work out for them. So the attackers have been pushed out of the city a little bit, and there's a little raid going on here. Apparently they were able to destroy one of these town centers. They're not really responding to this, so I think this is actually going to go down too. We'll see. This pressure is doing a lot of damage. Some champions have been sent to their deaths. Ooh. Oh, okay, yeah, it was destroyed. So that's -5 from this town center, -5 pop from this town center. And yellow is mustering again because he lost his whole force that was in the city. Red player using his what do you call it? His caravan to his advantage. So cutting off reinforcements that are coming through here, also a good tactic. Because usually this is a good flanking path for the attackers. Even more units being sent to their deaths. So the defenders do care about this area because it is the closest area to the victory objective right there. The attackers could go through here, but this is a much harder area to attack just because of the low ground and the obstacles, like one thin bridge over here and, you know, one thin attack path over here. So now the defenders, with the reinforcements of the halberdiers, this is probably going to clean up this northern attack. Although the defenders did lose a lot of units. There's another raiding party going through, trying to see what he can destroy. This is all but cleaned up, as you can see. And the defenders are doing a good job intercepting reinforcements, so the green player, which was me, not noticing. Losing a lot of units. So the rally points are against me. Now, as the green player, I did send some sneak attack siege rams. Now, the reason why it's hard for these defending players to realize this is happening is because they're not getting attack notifications, because these walls are owned by Gaia and these towers are owned by the ally, which does not give them notification that it's being attacked. And here's another sneak attack ram, which finally opened this area up. That was good. So now this is the first hole into the larger temple mount. So this is the larger temple mount, and this is the inner temple mount by the dome area. And this intercept force is finally being cleared up by the attackers. So you can see, as the attackers, you are going to want to keep your towers alive because you want to see where the attacks are coming from. Now it's harder for the attackers to know what's going on outside their city or inside their city. So the siege train has made it through. almost undetected, but blue knows what's going on. But there are Eastern Swordsmen inside the Rams. Eastern Swordsmen are the same stats as Long Swordsmen, so they're not very good. They're kind of crappy. But they are cheap. So, and they're still better than Halberdiers, so they can kill trash pretty well. So, since it was detected, I decided, well, I should kill at least one Magyar archery range, because that's holds population. And of course, it's an archery range. The defenders are starting to fall back a little with their defense. This is a bit of a massacre that's not going to work out for yellow. So now the defenders are in trouble because they weren't able to plug up these gaps. And the Teutonic Knights are still here trying to plug this gap, so that's a problem. And here comes another raid from me, the green player. So this is the specialty of the Turks player in this mode, is almost all our units, actually all of our cavalry except for the scout line, has bonus damage against buildings. So they're supposed to be raiding left and right. Unfortunately, this just isn't enough units to do any damage. So it looks like blue sent some random units to see what's out there. The defenders are trying to secure their flanks or their weak spots with the barricades. Always good. Probably gonna build one right here, I guess. There it is. Now you see that the barricades are always outside. It's because this area is unbuildable terrain inside the Temple Mount. So the defenders cannot build here. That just wouldn't be fair. Also, there's unbuildable area in the moats over here. And a few tiles out from the walls. So the defenders can't build like this super long wall. Also, there's unbuildable area about 9 tiles from the edge of the map. Or just a bunch of tiles from the edge of the map. I think it's 19, I don't remember. But you can see, there's a line right here. That's unbuildable area. And just so the attackers don't F themselves over with palisade walls, they can't build here either. So, the player 1 Mongol orange player did a good thing by destroying this gate. So now we have 2 points of attack into the city. And here comes the green player, me, trying to finish what I started much earlier in the game by taking this down. So we're starting to put a lot of pressure, apply a lot of pressure to the defenders. The gate went down, taking down some barricades. That's the advantage of the Turks. Barricades, not much of a deterrence to them because they have bonus damage versus buildings, and barricades count as regular buildings. Now they're losing even more population. If they lose these town centers, that's even more population lost. That scout could have gone for that onager. That was too bad. More town centers lost. So let's do a little count. So if we assume that all these town centers are lost, that's 5. That's 10 population each. So that's minus 10. And then, so all of the defenders have 190 population to work with, except for player 5 red, Hungarians, or Magyars. He has 185 population to work with because he lost an archery range. Something that the Teuton player should have done is not make scorpions, but just make onagers instead, because Teutonic onager is pretty good in just a few numbers. Here comes another flank with a... No, I did pull this flank off. I wanted to destroy more buildings. You can see how fast these buildings are going down with the bonus damage versus buildings. More siege workshops being lost. More archery ranges being lost. It's pretty good. I figure that I should just try to kill another one. I could have pulled back, which probably would have been the better choice. But I really wanted to do damage to their population. And keep their forces down here so that I could keep on attacking over here. So you can see that by keeping the forces down there, the orange player, player 1, Mongols, was able to take one of the main objective gates down. So now, player 4 Teutons is trying to make a wall with knights. Knights everywhere. So these are called Teutonic Knights, and these are called Teutonic Knights. Shouldn't be confusing though, obviously. Now hopefully this doesn't crash. If it does, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna show this in game so you can see what it looks like. Alright. Let's just show it in game. So you can see that it's the afternoon mood. We're not getting into the fall mood yet. It's not the last 3 minutes. So this is the desert mood. Desert mood setting. You can see that the defender resources are really getting low. And the attackers are also low, so still pretty balanced. And that's why it's important for the defenders to keep their markets alive so that they can trade each other, tribute each other resources for situations like this. So it's a good thing they kept their market alive. That gate went down, so now there's 4 points into the Greater Temple Mount and 1 point into the Inner Dome area. See, the attackers are also tributing each other resources for the attack. So Krieg first sent me a personal message saying that this is not fair because he's out. He's out of res as a Slav player. But I think it's fair. Squidness lying about his resources to try to demoralize us. Because this is really a morale game is what it is. How high can you keep your morale? Especially with the new victory condition. It used to be where if you get 30 units in here for the attackers, it's an instant win. So the whole uncontested thing is a new development. Just taking out this tower. Just because I had trebs here, but I didn't want them to go into the city unprotected, so I've decided just to take that tower out. These scorpions are actually doing good work, although I feel like you should focus fire them. There it goes, there it goes. Sun is setting, so you can see that it's transitioning into a afternoon or a fall mood to simulate a setting sun. Hold the line, man. There's just too many cavalry archers for these Teutonic Knights to be effective, unfortunately. So you've gotten into the dome. The defenders still have units in there. It's getting pretty exciting. Destroyed even more of the blue players' production buildings / population. Doesn't matter. Looks like the blue player is just out of resources. So that wasn't really going to do anything. Defenders still trying to keep enough units here. This is the last 3 minutes of the game. Alright, there's just not enough units for the defenders in the map, and I think this is it. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.